Welcome once again to episode 3 of All Things Missing and Lost. In this channel, we explore people, places, things that have gone missing and lost. Some of them have been found, but some of them have never been found ever since. It's a stark reminder to us who are watching and learning today in the present day to remember to cherish that which we have around us. It might be all gone in an instant. Our thoughts and prayers go out to those who have lost loved ones, those who have lost precious things, and are seeking to find them once again. Who knows? As we share our theories and our ideas, one day some of these things might be found once again. Today we'll be talking about a missing place. No, I will not be talking about the missing city of Atlantis, which has never been found, of which theories are abound, speculating what might have happened to it and where it might have gone. No, I'll be talking about Lake Anjikuni, which is found in the northwestern territories of Canada. Lake Anjikuni is actually a frozen, sometimes semi-frozen lake kind of lake. It's covered in snow and it's covered in ice in this region for about 6 months of a year. It's immensely cold. In fact, it is part of a string of waterways which Inuits use to sustain their community through fishing as well as through trade. In fact, there are several villages that are scattered along these lakes as is a form of livelihood and a form of sustenance. In 1930, fur trapper Joe LaBelle was trekking on his usual path up towards this village when by he realized that it was completely empty. He had passed this way many times before. He knows that there are about 25 people usually in this village, but on this day, they were completely gone. There were 6 tents in that village, and every single one of them was empty. The men, the women, and the children had completely gone. It seemed as if what happened to them happened suddenly. They probably left suddenly, or they vanished suddenly, because food was left hanging on its clotheslines. It was not packed and taken. Unfinished garments that were being made were also left in the tents where they were. Some of them were still left hanging on the clothesline. There was no sign of any struggle, nor packing for any journey. Everything was left as it was, as if they had intended to come back. There were 7 sled dogs that they had in the village, but they did not take any of these sled dogs with them. In fact, they discovered that these sled dogs had starved to death. They had been tied up and not fed. Strangely, there was also a grave that had been dug, but it looked empty. In fact, it looked unfinished. Joel initially wondered if it was the wild animals who had dug this hole and eaten up the corpse that was inside. But when he saw the stones that were placed around the grave in circular fashion in accordance with Inuit tradition, being undisturbed, then he knew that whoever opened up that grave did so carefully, intentionally, and it was probably done by human action rather than animal action. Joe was greatly puzzled at what happened to the 25 people and reported this news to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. The Northwestern Mounted Police then embarked on a journey up to Lake Anjikuni and found that the people had completely gone missing and vanished as Joe had said. They searched and searched in the neighboring region and could not find any traces nor footprints of where they had gone. They came to a conclusion that it took some time before the dog starved to death, and based on the level of how frozen the items were that were left out hanging, they made a good guess that it was probably 8 weeks that the village had been left in this condition before the dog starved to death and before Joe LaBelle came to find them. The mounted police then interviewed the neighboring villages, interviewed people who passed by this area, and they realized that right about that time, about 8 weeks before LaBelle came, many of them reported seeing bluish, pulsating lights over the lake area. Now, you might be thinking this is Canada, it's the northern part of the world. The aurora borealis is common in such areas. But from the description of the witnesses, they said these lights were not like the aurora borealis. They were bluish, and secondly, they were pulsing. They'd seen the aurora before, and they were certain this was not it. What do you think exactly happened to the Inuit inhabitants of Lake Anjikuni? How did they go missing? There are some theories that are abound, and let me bounce them with you. Firstly, you might have suspected this. The UFO enthusiasts think that a UFO came to pick them up and take all of them away in a hurry. If so, why them? Why only that village? And did a UFO really appear, or was it something else they saw in the skies that night? No one reported seeing a UFO. They only saw bluish lights. What could that have been? Remember, it was 1930. Electricity had already existed by then, so we don't really know what these things could be. Secondly, some observers draw attention to that open grave, and they speculate that something undead crawled out of that open grave and then ate everyone. If so, if it was a zombie, where are the bones? Did the inhabitants get turned into zombies themselves? And if they became zombies, why didn't they go to the neighboring other villages along the lakes and eat them too? What's going on? Thirdly, some people think that the inhabitants might have been hunted and killed by someone. Maybe some kind of hunter that came by to try and kill them. If so, why didn't he take their furs? Take their more precious items that were found left abandoned within the village? Could they have been killed by Bigfoot? If so, where were their bones? Did he not eat every single part of them, including their bones? The fourth theory is that they could have been captured and taken away by slave traders. But what we know from Canadian history is that in 1834, slavery was abolished, and it never ever featured Inuits being used as slaves. So this is an unlikely theory as well. I don't really know what happened that day in Lake Anjikuni that caused all the Inuits to disappear. Maybe there was a terrible storm that came, and they all ran somewhere to hide from that storm, and then all froze to death in a place that we have not yet found. And they will be found some days later, maybe hundreds of years later, when we chance across them. But what theories do you have? Put it in the comments below. And remember to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you again in episode 4.